Hey Willowbrook, my name is Jared Allen. I'm the campus pastor at the Madison campus. Today in our daily Devo reading, we find ourselves in Ezra chapter 6. Ezra chapter 6 has to be understood in the context of Ezra chapter 5. In Ezra chapter 5, an enemy, an adversary of Israel had sent a letter, a message requesting that Israel stop rebuilding their temple. In Ezra chapter 6, we see King Darius say, hey, we aren't doing that. In fact, I'm issuing a decree that it's full steam ahead. And that's exactly what God's people do. Let me read for you in Ezra chapter 6. Verse 11, I issued a decree that any man who violates this edict of stopping the temple and its construction shall be drawn from his house and shall be impaled on it. So King Darius is saying, this is serious stuff here. We're not stopping, and anyone who tries to get in the way, this is what is going to happen. And so God's people listened. God's people obeyed. And the scripture says they continued to rebuild the temple. In verse 16 it says, the sons of Israel, the priests of the Levites, and the rest of the exiles celebrated the dedication of this house of God with joy. And it goes on to tell how they celebrated. So here's what I want you to hear today. This is a great microcosm, a great example of what it's like for us to follow God. Anytime we follow God, there's going to be resistance. I'm in front of my backyard here. There's portions of my backyard that are uphill and portions that are downhill. And when it's uphill, I expect there to be resistance. I expect that I'm going to have to push harder to maintain that same pace. And that's true when we follow God. There's going to be people that come against us. There's going to be resistance on all sides. That's why Paul said at one point, he said, we are hard pressed on every side because there's resistance when we follow God. But that doesn't mean we give up. That means we just continue to push and to push and push. Just like King Darius determined here, just like God's people were faithful to do here. And when we do that, man, we're going to get to celebrate when we fulfill and complete God's will, God's assignments for us, just like they did with the temple and its rebuilding here in this chapter. Let me tell you one of my favorite scriptures in the New Testament that applies to our reading today in the Old Testament. It is Galatians 6:9. It says this, therefore, let us not grow tired of doing the right thing, for we know at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up. So if you're going through a hard time right now, if you're facing resistance, if you know you're doing God's will, don't give up. And the proper time of reaping of a harvest, the proper time of celebration is just around the corner. Love you, church family. Have a great day.